Next up, guys, we are back to the main card. We've got Pat Sabatini taking on Diego Lopes, and we got to cheers to this one. A little bit of coffee here. Pat Sabatini, guys, Project Pat, fun fighter, very good skills, well-rounded. But I must say, some of the losses he's taken in his career have given me some pause and some concern. The Damon Jackson knockout loss, he got hit badly early. He got beat positionally in the grappling as a result of that. So that was unfortunate there. James Gonzalez lists as a TKO via arm injury. If you guys have ever watched that fight, he gets his arm broken, just plain and simple. It was an armbar type scenario, overhook type armbar, and got his shit broken. It was a really scary looking arm break. Not a great visual, unfortunately. And he's got some good wins along the way. Don't get me wrong. But I just think, there's some concerns that I have on the Pat Sabatini side. Let's talk about it. He beats in the UFC Tristan Connolly. Okay. Tristan Connolly really struggled in the UFC. Just really struggled with the physicality, especially of most UFC level opponents. He has a win over Michelle Pereira and basically nobody else. Tucker Lutz. That was a good win. Shut him down there. I actually bet Tucker Lutz there. Completely foolish bet by me. And so I got to give him just clap and respect. That was a great win by him. TJ Laramie, another undersized guy, not a very big featherweight at all, but a guy who can grapple and who can move and who could scramble and who came in really good shape for that fight. So again, hats off to him, but a lot of decisions. He gets the heel hook over Jamal Emmers, who's also fighting on this card. But guys, if you remember that fight, Jamal Emmers comes out there, drops him with an uppercut, knocks him down, and then just gets into like the most idiotic toe hold exchange I could ever describe to you, where Pat Sabatini then rips his knee apart with a heel hook. It was just not a good decision tree, right? Then he goes out there and he submits Lucas Almeida his last time out. So a good win for our guy Pat Sabatini last time out. But Diego Lopes on the other side of things, he is the younger fighter in this spot. He does have more professional experience here, 28 professional fights coming in. And this is a guy who I bet at plus 620 against Movsar Evloev. It wasn't a huge bet by me, but it was a speculative investment. I just said to myself, this guy brings a really high pace. He's got very aggressive jiu-jitsu off his back, and this other guy's going to try and press him in that range. He's going to try and take him down. He's going to try and get on top of him. And I was like, this guy, Diego Lopes, is more than happy to play off his back. Now, playing off your back is not a, minus 500 skill set in MMA. It almost never is, right? But it is a skill set that you can make the life of a primary top player much more difficult if they're nervous, if they have to be worried about your submission attempts. Like I mentioned before, Pat Sabatini has had his arm broken before in competition, in mixed martial arts competition. So I think that that's a cause for concern against an armbar threat like Diego Lopes. If we go to his record, triangle armbar win versus Gavin Tucker, win via punches in Lux Fight League, against Angel Rodriguez, armbar in overtime against Jim Ehlers in EBI, armbar against Masio Fullen in Lux Fight League, knee bar, armbar, triangle choke, heel hook. It's like this guy has a lot of wins on his record by arm locks and arm attacks. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu primary specialist. So I think we've got two guys who are both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu aces, right? I think that on the one hand, we've got a guy in Pat Sabatini who should have the clear strength and wrestling advantage. Pat Sabatini is a beast. He is kind of like a Movsar Evloev in that way. He's going to be strong. He's going to get on top of a lot of guys. He's going to take down almost everybody. Let me pull up UFC stats, so I'm not talking out of my tuchus here, but I believe Pat Sabatini has taken down every UFC opponent. So he took down Tristan Connolly once. He did not take down Jamal Emmers. Technically, Jamal Emmers knocked him down and then submitted himself. He took down Tucker Lutz 5 times. He took down TJ Laramie 6 times. He was knocked out instantly by Damon Jackson, so I forgot about that as well. The only takedown of the fight went to Damon Jackson. And then he got 2 takedowns against Lucas Almeida. So more often than not, this guy is going to get takedowns in his fights. But, let's look at the significant strike totals. 26 strikes to 19, Sabatini against Connolly. 1 strike to 10, Sabatini against Emmers. 16 strikes to 17, Sabatini against Lutz. 36, and I'm talking significant strikes, of course. 36 to 15 against Laramie. 1 to 11 against Jackson, and then 27 for Sabatini compared to just 2 for Almeida last time out. So last time out, he put on a really impressive performance, no doubt about it. Pat is a member of the Renzo Gracie Philly team. I think it's Martinez BJJ. I'd have to double check though. There's a couple really good gyms in the Philly area. I don't want to misattribute his success there, but he's definitely in one of the primary gyms in Philly. He's definitely in a very good jiu-jitsu environment. So no disrespect at all to Pat Sabatini. I think he's a beast, but we've seen him hurt. We've seen him in compromised jiu-jitsu positions as well. I think this is probably the most dangerous guy he's faced. So for me, I think that Pat Sabatini has a more clear path to looking minus 500 in this fight, right? If he gets on top, if he grinds out top position, like a Mark Diakese, right? It's kind of a similar archetype in some ways. But I also think that like Mark Diakese, Pat is not above making the occasional mistake. He's not above making a mistake that could be fatal for the fight, that could cost him the fight in an instant. So I would not be surprised if Lopes touched him on the chin in this spot. I do think he's dangerous everywhere. I do think he's aggressive in all positions. I also would not be surprised if, Lopes is able to submit Pat Sabatini, and I don't say that, bullishly, because again, Movsar Evloev has survived those positions, but he was in a lot of dicey ones. He looked like he was in really dangerous spots. And I just don't know if you can put on a fight where 10 to 15 minutes worth is going to be you trying to take somebody down and get into dominant top control when they are perfectly happy to look for submissions, to attack off their back with elbows and everything else. I just can't envision a very comfortable win for Pat Sabatini here that doesn't involve, Lopes just underperforming in some way, because even in fights where he's held down, he's typically very active off his back with strikes and grappling. So really, really interesting stuff. Shout out to Prediction Shark, says, my brother and teacher from Long Island, your student from Valley Stream, thanks you for the endless knowledge and viewpoints. My man, I'm down here in Southern New York, but I do appreciate you big time, brother. Liam, Pat left Philly before last camp. Lou Betcha confirmed. Oh, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. I'm curious. Size matters in grappler versus grappler. I totally agree. Human Meta Project. Isn't Pat, former Gracie BJJ, very interesting? Let me check something out here, because Pat Sabatini, he is going to be 5 years older in this spot. He's going to be 3 inches shorter, and he's going to be at a 2.5-inch reach disadvantage. Yeah, I don't like any of that for Pat. I'll tell you the truth. And if I bet Tucker Lutz, then I might be tempted to bet Diego Lopes. I think Diego Lopes is only better at everything than Tucker Lutz. So let's see. Let's find out. But I think either way, I'll be happy to see whoever wins this fight, because I think both guys deserve a step up in competition. I think both guys interesting featherweights. But I just truly think that Diego Lopes is a guy that UFC wants to kind of get behind. He's in the corner for a lot of these Mexican women. He's helping to develop Mexican MMA. And on top of that, he's a very aggressive fighter. He really goes out there to put on a show. And I think that he's got an opportunity to do that here. So Northeast represent, Northeast shoot box, I think is what my guy Ozzy P says. So shout out to the Northeast shoot box. But I definitely think that this is a tough fight. And Diego Lopes, nobody I want to be fading at chalk personally.